Death is the one story every life shares, but the conversations around it rarely happen. Welcome to the show that opens the doors to the funeral profession. The people, the stories, and the truths most never hear. This is As the Hearse Turns.
Hey, we only got one intro on that one, so I guess we're doing something right.
Well, that's good. Good.
So Wednesday night surprise.
Yes, we love these pop-up lives, and these end up being some of our best shows because they're just, sporadic, and we just have conversations and talk about this and that, and we don't really have a script. People like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the true reality of, what we want to talk about. And, that's the benefit of being able to have our own thing to do whatever we want.
Absolutely. And what's amazing is that we hit 20,000 followers on the page today. This page is growing much faster than the Wagner, Elfner, and Berg page ever did.
I still can't believe that.
It's amazing.
It was like 4,000 new followers, and because what was it last night when we last talked at like 6? It was 19,000.
No, it was around 18, maybe. I don't know, because you said we'll hit 20,000 followers by the week, and I said no, it'll happen by Thursday. And
we were talking about not even getting, like, you said we would get to 19 by dinner time.
Yes.
And after we left each other yesterday, before we even got home, we were already over 19.
Yeah. It's 20,000 people that are interested in what we have to talk about. They have questions that they want answered, and we're just really grateful that everyone's here with us. This is awesome.
Yeah, no fluff. You know what I mean? That's the best part.
Right.
Let's see.
Yep.
So
I think I have everything shared to the pages that I need to.
Yeah, I shared over to As the Hearse Turns, and so this should be the last live that we do that we will have to do all that. Everything we should be able to stream directly to As the Hearse Turns on our on the 23rd for that episode.
Okay.
So
people are slowly starting to hop on. I see Cindy. Hi, Cindy, and Richie and Mary.
Tara Delp from Delta.
So maybe let's wait a little bit to get into your story about what happened to you at Harkins.
So I have seen a lot of questions and comments on that one video you posted. I think we need to make it very clear that there will still be content on the funeral home pages. It's just going to be a different kind of content.
Right. So I have found on our Wagner, Elfner, and Berg page that when we really get into the weeds with some certain topics, I get a lot of pushback. And it's because people are uncomfortable with talking about death and just, the fact that we're all going to die one day, right? It's going to happen. We just don't know when. But there are some people who don't like that, so they project, and I'm being called names and being told how awful we are. And I thought, you know what? We need to scale back a little bit on the business page with certain topics. Those will be addressed on As the Hearse Turns. We're still going to continue to answer questions on the Berg page, and I'm going to scale back a little bit on the videos. We're maybe only doing 3 question and answer videos a week.
And as far as the content, it's going to be more educational, I would say, and more, it's still going to be us, but it's just going to be a different type of content. The nitty gritty, and again, because we've talked about this before, As the Hearse Turns is separate from the funeral homes,
right?
And it is. Yes, it is us, but it's a separate entity, and we talk about different topics here, and we go down different rabbit holes, different routes that some people may not feel comfortable discussing or hearing. So this is our outlet on this side of things.
Right.
And then somebody did ask, they want to know if they can get a t-shirt from the funeral home so they can show their support. Now, you can get web merchandise from the Wagner, Elfner, and Berg website, correct?
Yes, you can. And we call it wag swag.
I love it.
So if you go to the Wagner, Elfner, and Berg website and you go to the drop down menu, go under merchandise and then purchase merchandise. And we work with a local company here in York. It's called To the T Outfitters. They're awesome. But the t-shirts aren't that like hard, thick cotton. They're really soft cotton t-shirts. I wear mine all the time. We just have different designs, but we don't have any yet for Harkins. We need to work on Harkins.
And then the other thing I saw, and you know what, it really got me thinking. I saw someone was commenting about the graphic you put up for the 4:00 post. People want to know if we will be selling those mugs.
Maybe.
That's what I said. I was like, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, thanks, ChatGPT.
All right. So let's see. We've got about 160 people in. So again, I know a lot of people. So Katharine, what was it? Tuesday? No, last Thursday when we were talking about billboards.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went up and met Katharine, and we were sitting in her office and we were talking. And I said, "You're not going to believe what happened to me today." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, so I will just tell everybody the entire story. So on my way to the funeral home Thursday morning, I had a phone call with a person. They were actually asking me, they had a meeting with a cemetery and they wanted to know if I had any advice for them. There's that bubble again. And we're talking, and I pulled up to the funeral home. I'm still on the phone. So it's probably about 9:15. I get out of the car. And I'll walk to the door, I'll unlock the door, and then I go back to the car and I will get my briefcase and my suit jacket. And I walked into the funeral home. And I froze. Okay. And it takes a lot to make me uneasy. It does. And I'm like, there's no reason. So there's video. So let's watch the video.
Okay, so I just walked into the funeral home.
I'm minding my own business until I hear that music.
TV is on. Hello? Hello?
I have no idea what that bang was.
It was like someone was walking out of the kitchen.
Yes.
And I know.
And we just installed this TV. So I hit the remote.
In here. But none of the lights are on.
And you can see, here. So
that door was.
If you go back here, my coat and everything is still sitting on a chair where I just laid it because I froze.
That door was locked. That's the door I came in. The side door is locked and the front doors are locked.
TT Marie says goosebumps. When Chris showed me that, I got tears in my eyes and I got goosebumps and I like moved away from the desk. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to understand, like, it takes a lot to now when Catherine says I ran out of the funeral home, I was there for the rest of the day because I did some batch recording and all like that, and I had to come up and meet her. But like the rest of the day, you're uneasy because there's no reason that TV should be on. We just put that TV up. Now, I have heard, and I don't know if you've heard.
Have you ever used that TV before?
No.
See,
Never.
I did not realize that. I guess I thought during services you had that little screen on with, was it like a fireplace or whatever in the background, or?
No, I've never had that TV on.
Christmas
That there's no reason why that should be on. That it shouldn't be streaming that, anything like that. I've always, since I've been there, I've only used the TV in the back in the sunroom area.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easier for me to plug it in because I don't have it set up to directly stream like any Tukios videos to that TV yet.
Right.
So that TV should not be on. I've never even set that TV up.
Okay, I didn't realize.
It's like not connected to the Wi-Fi. It is just plugged in to the outlet.
That's even more creepy. That's even worse.
So the strange part about this is after you posted your video, so some of the team at Harkins has been teasing me about someone by the name of Nora.
Yes.
And that's John Harkins' wife.
So your office is in Nora's room because
where Nora died.
Right. So when I first started there, the Wi-Fi was Nora's bedroom. And that's
okay.
Who's Nora? What's Nora's bedroom? Apparently that was her bedroom. But Jules on here, and she says that's the last room I rocked my son in. I love this. And I do know that Patty had shared with me that they would bring a rocking chair down and the parents could spend time with their babies in that room. Jewel, I've heard amazing things about you and I can't wait to meet you.
Yeah, Jewel will actually be. We have services tomorrow and Friday at Harkins, and Jewel will be down and getting into the nitty gritty with us.
Awesome.
But yeah, for everybody, that is the story. And what I will do is, I will take and I'll just post that video directly to the As the Hearse Turns page for everyone that couldn't make the live, and because those that listen on Apple and those that listen on Spotify are not going to get the full experience just by hearing the audio.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well,
I mean, it just made it was a little strange.
Well, one thing that we never came out publicly and said this, and this is my first time ever saying anything, but we did have a group come into Harkins shortly after we bought the funeral home. They wanted to investigate at Harkins, and they did want to talk about it on social media. And I said, at this time, I'm not comfortable with that. You can come in and investigate. They came in. It was back in October, I think, on a Friday night. There was a lot of activity at that funeral home, a lot of activity. And
now when you say team, you're talking about a paranormal investigation team.
Yes. And they sent me everything. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I don't really get into that stuff. I know you do, Chris. So I did send you everything the other day. But I also, I don't want the community to think that, the funeral home's scary and haunted and we shouldn't go there and it's creepy and eerie. I think you're going to get that stuff anywhere. If you live in a home where someone died, even just things happen. I don't know. Yeah.
So for like Catherine said, so my daughter is very much into the paranormal and investigations, things like that. I'm into that with her, and there's different things that we do as our hobby. But I will say this. I have a theory, and I've been on a couple different of the paranormal podcasts, and people always ask me as a funeral director, well, this is the very first experience in my entire career to where something like this could have happened, because I can't say it's paranormal. The TV could have, turned on by itself. It could have been a power surge. It could have been, like Nate even mentioned, somebody has the same exact TV across the street and their remote turned on our TV. Now, my theory though is, why would, if it was a spirit or whatever, why would they want to just come hang out at the funeral home with me? they would have better places to be, whether with their family or, there's no reason just to be there. So
they can stay down there with you. We're good up at our
you
place.
need more people to fill the new location on Cape Horn Road. So you can have Casper the Friendly Ghost. Oh man, I totally forgot to, because I even had cool music that we were going to play. Yes.
Oh
Missed opportunity. All right. So we've talked about my traumatic ordeal, but
Yeah.
if anything else happens, I will document it, and as the hearse turns, we'll be the first to know when we decide to share it, because we know how our followers have loved this teaser, because some people were flat out mean.
They were nasty to us.
Some people were like, "I'm going to unfollow you." It's like, well,
we had that one lady swear at us, and I said, language, Susan, whatever her name was. I don't know. But yeah, you got to be nice. You can't use language like that on this page. Got to be respectful.
I visit all the time. That's scary. I know. I'm going to have to go back and really look at these comments, because there's a lot of good comments in here about that. But, all right. So we were just going to chat, but I know there were some.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the comments, and we'll go down those rabbit holes first?
Yes. So on the Wagner, Elfner, and Berg page, we had a video post the other day about grave opening prices at cemeteries, and someone said to me, why are they so expensive? And I just replied, I ask myself the same thing. And they vary. We'll have some small, tiny little cemeteries in Southern York County that charge $700 for a traditional grave opening. And then you go to one of the larger corporate owned cemeteries and it's $2,500, $2,700 on a weekend. And I had a lot of people come after me on that. And I had one lady, her name was Last Responder Jen, and she said, you have your nerve. I have been on the funeral home side of it and the cemetery side. Funeral homes take advantage of families at the most devastating time in their lives. You talk about cemetery pricing being inconsistent. However, we're not bending families over and basically shaking them down at 2.5 times markup. And I'm like, whoa. All I just said was I asked myself the same question. I'm open to being educated. And at some point, I think it was earlier in the week, we had a gentleman come on and he said, something seems a little odd with those high prices, but I'm a gravedigger. And he kind of, elaborated on the costs. And I said, would you be willing to come on the show and talk to us? So at some point we're going to have a gravedigger on here. I do need to connect with him, but
now I think one of the things,
bend families over and shake them down.
My biggest issue was,
give me one second. I got to grab a tissue.
My biggest issue with that was the comment that, bend people over, shake them down, that stuff. But also, most cemetery counselors, so if it's like a not a private cemetery, let's call a spade a spade. If it's a corporately owned cemetery, mm-hmm. those counselors are commission based. They may get a base salary. They may get a draw against their commission, but there is a commission that they are paid based off of one. If it's a property, if it's a private estate, if it's a mausoleum, those things. Because there's been so many people this week in the couple of the videos that I posted about pricing and things like that, where they're like, well, all funeral directors are commissioned. And I'm like, where? I don't
even know that that's legal.
See, I don't know. I heard, there's rumors that, corporate Death Star Texas funeral directors, that they're either incentivized or that there is a commission, and that if families deviate from package pricing, they then lose commission. And I don't know if that's true or not, because I have never worked for corporate funeral homes.
Right.
A friend A friend had someone from a corporate-owned cemetery call her on the phone to pre-sell her a vault. So, I mean, prices are going to vary because, for example, down my neck of the woods in the country, you can buy a plot and get the deed for less than $1,000, $800.
Yeah.
Opening and closing at one of the local cemeteries in town is only $700. And then you get out more into, York City or East or West York, and you get like into those cemeteries. I know some opening and closings are what, Catherine, $2,500.
Mhm. And they're usually the corporate cemeteries. And I just want to put this out there. There are a lot of funeral directors, at private firms like where we are. We own our funeral home. We're locally owned and operated. There's a lot of directors that have bad experiences and just, I hate SCI and blah, 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 blah. I have never had a bad experience with anyone from SCI. I would just like to say that we have a great relationship with the SCI cemeteries in our area. I enjoy who I work with, but pricing varies. And that's what I was getting at in that video. The pricing is all over the board, but people came after me for that video. Last responder Jen does not like me. And Jen earned a spot on our blocked list.
Well, one person even said, "Stay in your lane. Why are you talking about cemetery pricing?" Yeah. Well, cemeteries sell caskets too, don't they?
Yes. And here's what gets me. What happens if one of the corporate cemeteries sells someone a casket at, they're 25 years old when they buy their casket in their vault? And what happens if they gain weight over time and 60 years later when they pass and they're 80 years old? What if they don't fit in that casket? Does the cemetery refund the money to the family?
No. I don't know, because is it if the merchandise is guaranteed, yeah, and something's different, I'm sure there's got to be something there.
And we did have that situation one time where someone needed an oversized casket and they did not have that from the cemetery. But I mean, we made it work. It was a closed casket, but.
So Mary says, I've been to several funerals at Harkins growing up. My dad, a few aunts, uncles, my grandparents, and my mom's side. I kind of believe in spirits and stuff. I swear I thought I saw my dad after he passed away one night, late night when it was dark, standing by a tree by the garage. But I couldn't prove it to my mom or sister. I was almost 12 years old. He passed away right before Christmas that year, a month and a day before my birthday. My husband also believes in spirits too, and her husband is Latino.
They are sad you guys are leaving. TT, we are not leaving Harkins where Chris is. And I think sometimes I do think that there's confusion. So we have Wagner, Elfner, and Berg in Red Lion, and we are building a new Wagner, Elfner, and Berg location also in Red Lion. We're going to move to that new location and shut down our current Red Lion location. And then Chris is...
You're stuck with me.
Yeah, Chris is 35 minutes south at his own location in Delta, Pennsylvania. So Harkins and Wagner, Elfner, and Berg are two totally different locations. We are not shutting down Harkins.
Yeah, Harkins is not going anywhere. But yeah, no, I mean, again, this is prime example of people coming on, because that was on the Berg page where you posted that video, and people just coming on and just going crazy, and then if they're not happy,
brings out the crazies.
Well, and the biggest problem too I see is that's when if they're not happy with the answer, that's where they start taking to different venues of leaving negative reviews, and you've never even used our services.
Yeah. Let's go through some of these comments.
Let's see.
Sarah says there are multiple corporately owned cemeteries in the next town over, and they dictate to us when the funeral can be. And the opening and closing is typically over 2,000. It's crazy. Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat here. They tell us when we can get in and when we can't.
Deneen, the lady right here to my right, or depending on how you're looking at it, to our left, her and her husband own Harkins. They are the owners.
We bought Harkins in, I want to
August?
say it was August. Was it August 25th or 28th of 25?
I am not changing a single thing about that funeral home.
No, and I'm not interested. Harkins was pretty turnkey for the most part when we bought it. It's a cute little place.
As far as the exterior, more of the landscaping and all that stuff. I think Nate and you guys have on the schedule for hopefully later this summer. But as far as anything interior, everything is remaining the same. The building has great bones. It really does. And even the exterior, people love I love the exterior of that building.
It's a beautiful building. It really is.
Let's see, what's this? Why do the cemetery dictate that doesn't seem right? I'm not sure. They can set their own pricing. They're their own company, their own organization. They can set their own pricing.
I think maybe was that Janet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Janet, I think maybe she's referring to when I said they dictate when we can get in for services.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know that at least the one that I'm thinking of in particular here in York, they were short-staffed for a period of time, and they need one counselor. What's the name? Family
service counselors.
Yeah. So they like to have one family service counselor oversee each service. And I know they were down to maybe 2 people at one point, and they don't want to stretch themselves too thin. So they say, okay, here's when you can in, here's when you can get in, here's what time you can get in. And we kind of have to go based off of what they tell us. Now, fortunately, when their schedule fills up, they are good about sending us a mass email saying, hey, here are the dates you can't get in. So when we meet with families, we know what we're working with.
And they are serving, multiple firms, multiple families. So that, it is a first come, first serve. I don't know what's the typical window you have to give up this way, Catherine. 48, 72 hours.
Yeah. I think the families have to go in 48 hours in advance to sign paperwork.
And do they have to pay everything?
Sometimes we write the grave opening and everything up on our contract. So we will take care of paying it. And I'll take a check with me to the cemetery, but
they have to be, there has to be a check in hand when that hearse pulls through the cemetery, if not before.
Yeah. And you better show up with that permit too, because they will not lower that casket. I learned that early on. It was like one of my first trips to Susquehanna, and I showed up without a permit. And I was working under the previous ownership. I had just started. I shouldn't even have been at a graveside because I wasn't a licensed director, but I was just doing as I was told because I was working for someone at the time. And got to the graveside, didn't have my permit, and they made me, after the family left, casket sat there, and they made me run all the way back to the funeral home. But I didn't know.
Krista, we have an idea. It's just going to take time and a little bit more finances for us to figure out a little bit more about parking. But do not worry, nothing's happening to the front yard. Okay, so the front yard is not being paved into a parking lot or anything like that. But I do appreciate it. Krista has been absolutely amazing and been a very big champion since I've been down at Harkins. And that is, I still need to get in touch with Krista. She has given us permission to be able to talk about some of the pre-need stuff that she's gone through. But she told me that she had a family member that completely prepaid everything, but still ended up owing about $13,000. And she's supposed to be getting some more information for that, not with us, but just so that we can break that down, because that just seems there might be money owed after a pre-need if cash advances change or something, but not to that extreme. So I still have to get that information from her.
Maybe the merchandise wasn't guaranteed?
That's what I'm curious. And that's what I was saying. I'd have to know some more other facts before I can speak to it. Um, no.
Emily wants to know if she missed the spooky story. It's at the very beginning. We did talk about it.
It is at the very beginning. Everything's there. It'll be available for replay here once the live ends. And I am going to post just the video itself after we're done here directly to the As the Hearse Turns page for you guys to break down, investigate, and tell me your thoughts on it. You know, maybe there's a reasonable explanation, and or Nora just really likes me. Somebody was asking about opening and closing. Opening and close. Like I said, I owe opening and closing at time of burial can be paid by the funeral home after I pay them. Yeah. I mean, if it's on the contract and you want us to write the check, and a lot of folks prefer that because it's easier than the family having to worry about making payments to multiple different people, like churches, clergy honorariums, organists, those types of things. That's all the stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and I would encourage you that if you're going into a funeral home and you're doing an at-need arrangement, which means someone has just passed and you're planning a funeral arrangement for them, let the funeral home take care of everything. We did have a family at one point, I think it was shortly after we purchased Harkins, and they wanted to take care of the honorarium to the pastor, and it never got to the pastor. So then the pastor was calling us at the funeral home saying, I never received anything from the family. Do you know anything about this? And it kind of puts us all in an awkward situation. So let the funeral home take care of that. They'll cut the check to the pastor. They'll probably write a nice thank you note on your behalf, but let them take care of that, because during grief and just, the day of the service, you're not going to remember to do it.
And, the other thing is, too, I want to make it very clear with cash advance items, we do not inflate any of the cash advance items. Now, if a funeral home, now this is law, if a funeral home inflates or increases cash advance items, it has to be disclosed to the family. So anything that we write a check for your behalf is whatever you would be charged directly. So just by asking us to do that, we are just doing it to take one more thing off your plate to make things easier. There's no charge or anything like that for that. Krista says she thinks that's it. It was planned, but it was not completely paid. So Janet said, by the way, nice Michigan shirt, go blue.
I knew someone was going to bring up my shirt. I got this off Shein or whatever it's called. I just liked it. I like the style. Go Sports. I know nothing about Michigan.
Well, what was it? So you've got to show the folks your pants.
Oh, well, I was going to sit here tonight in my pajamas just because it's 7:00 on a Wednesday night, and these are my Valentine's Day pajamas, and Nathan said that they weren't professional. So I went and put a sweatshirt on.
Somebody asked, do cemeteries need to hold money in trust, and is it transferable? You know what? I do not know cemetery law. They are completely separate entities. They have their own oversight. They're not overseen by the board of funeral directors. So I cannot answer that question, but I would encourage you to call a local cemetery and ask. I'm a big proponent in just picking up the phone, calling, and asking the questions. That way you get the answers. And call more than one.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
My brother paid for my mama to be put in a mausoleum in Wilson, North Carolina. I think it was $3,500. And we talked, and mama got a deal on 9 graves in a small town. They would not give my brother the money back for it was owned by and I heard they were bought out by a new company. Well, Dignity and SCI are the same.
Yeah.
One is a trade name, and SCI is the official company. But yet, if it is an so again, this comes back to preneed, guys, and we've talked about it before. If it is an irrevocable trust, it cannot be canceled. It can be transferred, but it cannot be canceled. But again, I don't know about cemetery. I can only speak about the funeral side of things.
Right. And I don't know about you, Chris, but I've had families reach out to me in the local area, just several of them over the last couple of years, and they'll say, we purchased plots at XYZ Cemetery, which happens to be a dignity cemetery for traditional burial. We've decided we want to be cremated and we no longer need those plots. We want to sell them.
Yeah.
Get in line, because
It's a lot of people.
there's a lot of people, just because the grave opening cost is high, and people have they've changed their mind over time. But I have never had anyone call me and say, do you know of any plots for sale at that particular cemetery? We want to buy them. I think people just don't use them, or they just continue to get passed down in the family.
So, it's. I don't know if they just end up going. I hate to say, end up going to waste.
I don't know. And also, I just want to say, I actually want to be buried in that particular cemetery. Nathan's parents will be buried there, and I believe his grandmother, his dad's mom, is buried there. But it's a beautiful cemetery in York, and I like the scenery. Not that I'm going to be able to see.
You don't know, unless you're coming down to Harkins to turn on my TV.
Right. But yeah, I want to be buried in that cemetery.
And see, again, you know where you want to go. You have a plan, and you've communicated that information, and that, again, priceless.
Yeah.
Marty did post this, and it comes back. You might have to tell him about Tim's obituary.
Yeah.
So paper obit used to be $25 when his sister passed. I've shared her urn pick with you. The paper obit rose to $400 for a one-time print. This is why, if you look in the paper, the obituary section is so small.
Not uncommon. I put an obituary in today, and it was $460. I had a family one time down at Harkins. Actually, they wanted an obituary in the local paper here, so it was around $400. And then when I went to the Baltimore Sun, it was $1,700, and they said,
that's insane.
Forget it. But yeah, Tim from William R. May Funeral Home, also here in Pennsylvania, he ran a death notice in the Philadelphia Inquirer a couple weeks ago, and it was $8,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Sarah Catherine will be there.
Yeah. Caitlin will be there, also from Coleman Taylor Funeral Home. And Ryan did tell us that you would be there, so I'm super excited to meet you. Yeehaw.
Let's see. So, and there was another good question that was asking about funeral homes. They were asking if there were huge rivalry with the funeral homes surrounding us and in our area.
Well,
I have no one near me.
Right. No. I mean, there's a funeral home 2 miles from where we are now. And when we move to our new location, they're like 1.4 miles up the road from us. There's another one. Yeah, there's another one in Dallastown. But, I think we all offer something different. We all offer a different experience. We all have our own unique touches and ways of doing things. And we're definitely the oddball funeral home, but in a very good way.
Let's see. The info tube that is on the casket in case of floods and a casket floats away, where do they put them for urns? Inside the ashes. My grandparents are cremated and have main urns at the cemetery. So I can only speak for us. So there's an identification tag, a steel tag, that's attached to the cremated remains. And that identification number can be, you could call back to the crematory, you give them that disc number, and they can tell you exactly who those cremated remains are. Yeah, come here.
Hi.
Skylar just wanted to come down and say hi.
Did you say
Skylar,
Yes.
Yeah.
you know who you should bring out right now, if it's possible, and show everyone?
Who?
She won't get him out of the cage.
She won't pick him up?
I got to get him out.
Oh,
I've got to
okay.
get him out, Mr. Slithers. So we'll have to. I will bring him in for a live one night. So Skylar has a albino Burmese python, ball python, and Catherine said he can come visit at the new funeral home anytime, and she's looking forward to getting acquainted with him.
No. I was getting ready this morning and there was a spider on the ceiling. And I came down to get the vacuum with the attachment because, of course, I'm too scared. And Max was like, "Mom, where are you going?" And I said, "There's a spider on the ceiling." So we went up and vacuumed the spider together. I don't do that stuff. No.
Michelle hates spiders. Like, she will burn the house down if she sees a spider. She's like, "We'll build a new house."
Right.
So thanks for answering. Yeah, I mean the prices are all over the place, and I think it has to do a lot with the area. Are they, if even with us it may be $700, but if the person if the grave digger hits rock, there's additional fees for them. They have to add, and things like that. So it's gonna vary.
Well, and let's talk too that if you have an oversized casket, you might need an oversized vault, which means you might need to have 2 graves opened.
Yes.
As well.
Yep. So that was, let's see, we had that interesting conversation this week. And then, what was one of the other one was a lot of people talking about when we were mentioning when funeral homes advertise the fact that a loved one is in their care from start to finish. We get a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah. I was just, I don't know. I think we all creep around on each other's websites. I'll be the first to admit it. I want to check things out, snoop around. And I went on to another funeral home's website the other day, and right away I saw they had some sort of cremation guarantee, and it was that guarantee your loved one never leaves our care. Well, I don't know about you guys, but to me, if my dad goes there, Dad's not leaving. Dad's staying with them. He's never leaving their care. And I screenshotted it and I sent it in our group text to the people who are in our group text. And I said, they use the same crematory that we do. And so I'm familiar with this funeral home. They do not own their own crematory. They use Evans Cremation Services over in Lancaster County. But if you do a little bit more digging on the website, at some point they do divulge that they use a third-party crematory. But when someone is trying to make a quick decision and they see that main page with the cremation guarantee where your loved one never leaves our care, they're going to go based off of that. If that's important to that family, they're going to say, all right, we found a funeral home that has their own crematory. We're going to give this funeral home a call. And I find that to be very misleading and sneaky.
Well, because you're not in their, you're not in the care and custody of that firm. You either they have taken the deceased to the crematory and then given care and custody to the crematory, or the crematory comes to them and takes care and custody of the body and then takes the deceased to the crematory.
Yeah.
They're not constantly in the care. It's not like they're going from building A across the parking lot to building B, which is the crematory.
Right.
They're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
They're not performing the cremation. I don't know that they, are they certified cremation operators or are they certified cremation planners? So to sit there and it's not misleading, it's lying.
Mm-hmm.
To lie to the public, to the consumer, just to try and garner more trust.
Right.
That is so wrong.
Do you want to get into a little bit of the tri-state stuff while we're on this topic?
I mean, yeah, we're talking about crematories. So did you finish the podcast?
I did not. Let me see where I am right now. I am.
Once you get past like 6 and 7, you're out of the nitty gritty. You're going to start getting into more of the backstory.
Let me see. I am on chapter 6.
Okay. So you're there. You're getting pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Who here? Let's give people a couple minutes to respond. But who here has started listening to the Noble podcast on Spotify that we suggested you listen to? So if you started listening to it, comment, because we don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, I'm the 23rd is going to be an amazing show. So please, if you're interested, make sure you tune in for that. I mean, I can't believe that. I mean, I looked up who the creator and the producer for that show was, and I just sent him an email and explained who we were, what we were doing. And, Sean was like, yeah, I'd love to be on the show. So I'm really excited to be able to sit down and talk to him.
Can we touch on a comment real quick?
Yeah, which one?
Do you see the one from Lane?
Let me go up here.
She says, I don't trust the funeral home that will be handling my mom's services eventually.
Oh, is that the one asking if she can be present?
Lane, what's keeping you from switching funeral homes, just in general? Because it sounds like you're concerned about maybe the funeral home, because the cemetery is most likely going to be completely separate from the funeral home.
Yeah, let us know, like, what is it that you don't trust her? Here's the thing: if you don't trust the funeral home, if you don't feel comfortable with the funeral home, you can transfer pre-need. Now, you can transfer the pre-need, but it's the receiving funeral home is not going to honor the contract at that price. You're going to have to transfer the pre-need to the new funeral home, and whatever their current day prices are is what they're going to expect to be compensated for.
You got that text too. I'm wondering if this is
yes,
a goofy question. Well, and you said the funeral home will not honor that contract, that there might be a difference owed. I guess that's up to the funeral home, right?
I mean, if you wanted to, as an owner, make the exception and say, hey, we'll take it and we'll completely honor the pre-need as it is. That is completely within your rights, but I've never seen it done.
I think we have done two. We have had two transferred pre-arrangements to us, and I have honored them. I really want to take a look over the paperwork before I commit to that, though. But
yeah.
Pre-arrangements are transferable, and we get that question at our funeral home. If you have a pre-arrangement here in York County and you wanted to switch it over to us, give us a call and we can talk about that.
So Lane says we have a family plot of 12 with 4 plots left remaining since 1935. So mom wants to be buried with her family. The funeral home has a bad history of tax evasion, switched headstones, etc. Lane, get your pre-need, go to another funeral home. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. If switched headstone, I mean, this is going to segue perfectly into like the stuff we're talking about the tri-state situation. Integrity and honesty, you can't do stuff like that. That's just, again, that's why there are so many black eyes on the funeral profession, because of people doing stupid stuff.
Aubrey had asked a question. She says, if a funeral director recommends a closed casket, can the family members still view their loved one? Is there a rule where the family is prohibited from seeing their loved one for their final goodbye? Aubrey, I mean, if I have a family that came in to me and they lost their child, as a parent, I don't know that I could ever tell them you can never see your child again, right? If there's trauma, something that's concerning to me that I don't think that the family should see, and they insist on seeing them, we would have them sign off on waivers.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple, we're giving you our professional opinion for a reason, to spare you something that could be very traumatic. But we cannot sit here and say, no, you can't. But we can require that there be some that you're going to cite a hold harmless that says, hey, the funeral home has advised me against this. However, I'm choosing of my own accord to do so. And that's just because, it's people have come back later on and tried to sue the funeral homes because of post-traumatic stress or something along those lines.
So what are people saying about Tri-State?
So some people were saying I have started and they're into the podcast. So I mean, the podcast is a very easy listen to because it's not a traditional podcast. It's truly like a story and things like that, which is pretty cool. So somebody asked, could you give the name of the podcast again?
Noble.
Noble. Noble. So a little backstory on Noble. So I listened to this a couple years ago, and it's always stuck with me. And I was really surprised. I think when we had Breland on the show a couple weeks ago, we had talked about it, and you were like, you had never heard of it. And I was like, wow. So I went back and started re-listening to it. So this crematory was a standalone crematory in Noble, Georgia. And it was started by a family who originally were just grave diggers and then became a vault company and then put in their own crematory. Well, the father of the gentleman who was eventually charged for this had a stroke and became unable to work. So, and this you'll get into it in the next episode, Catherine, as part of the defense, is that they argued that a lot of this happened because he was forced to be a good son and just take over the business, which he never wanted anything to do with. And the crematory stopped working. There was no repairs. And I think starting from 1996, they were able to find about 6 sets of remains. Then it jumped up in 1997 to about 20 remains. And then it continually progressed. And the final official count was 339 individuals that were never cremated, but either buried in mass graves on the property. Because they were a vault company, there would occasionally be up to 20 bodies in a vault, and they would just put them in outbuildings around the property. And the only reason this came to light and was discovered was the gas man. There was no oversight. There was no inspector, no anything. And that case single-handedly is what has changed how cremation is regulated and how statutes are enforced and inspections and so forth. That was a huge part of why we have the laws we have now. And one of the other things I was thinking about, because somebody asked in one of our comments, said, well, how old is this? And you're just bringing it up to scare people. This wasn't that old. This was discovered in 2002.
And it still continues to happen.
We just had it happen in Maryland.
I remember when we were texting about that. I'm like, how far is this from you? Yep. It's like 20 minutes from you.
I ended up spending so much time in Annapolis because of legislation we had to pass. And the crazy part about that is the folks that own, and here somebody made the comment that you should use a funeral home that has a crematory attached to it. Well, the one in Maryland was a funeral home with a crematory attached to it. Okay, so take that with a grain of salt. But it was not to the extent of 339 bodies, but I believe it was around 15 to 20. But one is too many. It doesn't matter if it's 1. It doesn't matter if it's 339. 1 is too many. And I think that the whole argument that this happened because he was forced to take over the company because he had to help support his family and bring in revenue. I mean, that's a crock of crap.
Yeah.
But again, that is a harrowing message for funeral directors that force their children that do not want to be in the business into the business just for namesake or to carry on the funeral home name and things like that, because their heart's not really there. And that's where you start seeing these types of situations, people cutting corners or something along those lines.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting show because I mean, Sean went to Noble, Georgia when he was recording the show, and I don't want to spoil it, but Brent Marsh is now out. He served his time, and he holds a interesting position in the community, and he actually went out to try and talk to this man. So to have him here to be able to talk to him, and I'm curious to see what caused him to want to do this, because he did it several years after everything had finally settled, and he has no ties to the funeral profession or the death care industry whatsoever.
And he shouldn't. Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people, Noble, Noble is the name of the podcast. So Janet, he found literally when he came out, so it was not a natural gas crematory. It was a propane ran crematory. So the gas man came out to refill the propane tank. And literally it's in the first episode, as he goes to hook his hose to the tank, he looks over and I believe he saw a foot just sticking up from under a tarp.
There were, yeah.
And we're not talking about decomposed. We're talking about fresh feet. And what's crazy is he went and reported it to the sheriff. The sheriff went out. And the sheriff's like, oh, well, Brent must just be a couple bodies behind. He must be really busy. And then nothing happened. And then the gas man comes back a year later and sees more. And it literally took the gas man explaining this to his aunt, who happened to work for the FBI, to call the EPA.
She made an anonymous report, right?
She called. She's like, I'm Aunt Jenny. I was walking my dog. My dog found a skull by a creek in the woods. And the EPA is like, oh, well, this gives us a reason to come out and take a look. And when the EPA came out, that's when the whole thing breaks wide open. It is about, I think it's 7 episodes or 8 episodes. They're about 20 to 30 minutes long. But please go jump on. It's a very easy listen. If you start now, you'll definitely have them all done by the 23rd when we have Sean Revive on the show.
And it's important to talk about this, the fact that, Chris and I have talked openly that we do use a third-party crematory. We do. There's a big difference, though, between the third-party crematory we use and what was it, Tri-State Crematory? That was the name of it?
Crematory. Yep.
Okay. Tri-State was a single-man operator. There was one person and one person only, and he was the only person who knew what was going on. The crematory that we use over in Lancaster County, it's family-owned and operated. There are, I don't even know how many ladies that work in the office, but they're all amazing. Bill, Brooks, Paul, Ryan, there are multiple people who oversee that entire operation. And even today, I was talking with George. I stopped down to the new funeral home, Chris, and I was talking with George. And I did tell him, by the way, that you're not going to make it tomorrow.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I did not get a chance to text him today.
Yeah, he asked me, and I said, you're not going to make it. Okay. And we got on the topic of cremation, and he said, who do you use? And I said, Evans. And right away, he's like, they are such a great family. Like, what a reputable family, good people, just salt of the earth. But yeah, it's those and there are single operator crematories out there that are wonderful. There's always going to be bad apples in every bunch, but it's, those.
And here's the thing: a lot of people don't understand that my background before I came with Catherine and Nate. I oversee and managed a crematory. It was part of our portfolio, so to speak. It was high volume, and there are rules, there are regulations, there are things you've got to make sure you're doing. There are checks and balances in place, but it's just, it is heartbreaking because somebody made a comment, and you think about this: Tri-State would have been after Lamb. So if anybody's ever watched the HBO documentary The Mortician, that happened before Tri-State Crematory. That issue, because that was in the Lambs was back in what I can't remember. Was it the 80s, early 90s, Catherine?
I guess. I don't know. I don't remember. I truthfully only got 3 episodes into that, and I turned it off.
So I mean, it was horrible, but that happened before Tri-State.
Right.
So again, and then even after Tri-State, we have out in Colorado, we have Return to Nature Funeral Home. We have Maryland with what happened with Heaven Bound Crematory. And I'm noticing they're all weird name crematories, by the way. But there has got to be more accountability. There has got to be more. I know everybody says they don't want more oversight. They don't want more oversight. But if you don't want more oversight, if you have a problem with oversight, what are you doing wrong? Is my question.
Can I get your opinion on this? Does low cost have anything to do with these situations? Because maybe they're getting bombarded with work and they can't keep up with it because people are getting these $900 cremations.
I think that has a lot to do with it because they don't turn away anything, and then they get overwhelmed and they can't catch up because you can only cremate so many people a day.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, you might have your air permit, your EPA permit may say you can only perform 1 cremation every 8 hours, and your machine has to cool down to XYZ. You may have you might live in an area where your permit says that there are no regulations, and you can cremate, as many people in a 24-hour period. Now, when I say as many people, I want to make it very clear: it is only 1 person at a time. That there's not communal cremation for human beings. There's communal cremation for pets, but again, it's a separate machine. You cannot commingle pet remains with human remains. I think that might have something to do with it, but Tri-State was not open to the public. Tri-State was only a contracted crematory for funeral homes. So for never having a funeral, because you figure if something started in 1997 and in 2001 is when the gas man first came out, and then 2002 is when everything broke wide open, the funeral homes never delivered remains to Tri-State. Brent always came out and picked up the bodies.
So this Heaven Bound funeral home.
Yep.
The Brand Jamar commented Heaven Bound was the talk of the town, or was the talk for a while. Sorry.
Yes.
What were they charging for cremation?
I believe they were around $9 to $1,000. 1 machine. And I mean, the machine was in horrible disrepair. And now a little bit about the Heaven Bound, because I'm intimately acquainted with that case, was, they were actually put on probation. The board came out and was doing an inspection. Their machine had a crack, so that's why they said their bodies hadn't been, the decedents hadn't been cremated in time. So they were put on probation, and then the owners, or the owner, the lady, never completed probation, so she got reprimanded again. They came out, they fined her. She had to pay a slap on the wrist. And then finally they came out, and the state saw so much backlog and, loved ones not being stored properly, things like that. But the board had no recourse to be able to do anything because of the way the law was written. If they were to say, hey, Catherine, I'm going to suspend your license because of this violation. As soon as you write a written appeal to the board appealing the suspension, you're then allowed to practice again until it goes through court. So that's why it literally took the funeral directors of Maryland, the Funeral Directors Association, and us going and lobbying down in Annapolis to have the laws changed. And those laws did not change until literally 6 days ago when they finally passed. So it was over 2 years of trying to get it right before it got sent to the governor in Maryland to make the laws to where the board can actually discipline and suspend a license and make sure you do not practice. It's absurd. I had to get a CCO through my mortuary college when I went through mortuary school. Did you have to go through the cremation program with PIMS, Catherine?
I am a certified crematory operator, but if you told me that I needed to cremate someone, I would have no idea what to do. I'm not going to lie. I don't even know where my certificate is. It's somewhere upstairs. I'm going to grab some water. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and see if we got any
Ooh.
Limbo Loa now.
Stuck under my cord.
Fran, are you asking in regards to the tri-state? The cremated remains were cement and Quikrete is what families were given back.
It's water drinking weather. It was hot out today. It was really
very hot. Yeah, so that the Vince, you're talking about Return to Nature funeral home. That, yeah, and I believe that case is still being litigated in court or something crazy like that. Every ID. And I mean, here's the thing, guys. This is why it is so important that you do some digging and research into the funeral home you want to use. I mean, I can't believe there was a funeral director in York County that was charged, but I don't know if anything ever came out of the case for sexual assault. And, you know, do you guys, like, I just can't fathom doing business with somebody like that, or doing business with somebody that has had, you know, complaints filed against them, or there's been, you know, now don't get me wrong, you're never going to please everybody all the time. So there are some complaints that are, you know, they misspelled my mom's name on the memorial folder.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But something egregious, and to still be, you know, wanting to do business just based off of whether it be price point, it boggles my mind. It really does.
Yep. Yeah, I have a lot I could say right now. I just don't know how much I want to say.
You know, here's the thing.
Yeah.
We don't need to say anything. Google is everyone's friend.
Mm-hmm.
Google is everyone's friend.
Well, and every now and then I'll have someone come up to me and say, "Are you friends with so-and-so?" My answer is no. And they'll say, "Oh, well, they're a good friend of mine." And I think, I don't know that I would ever admit that to anyone, but you obviously haven't seen what all of us have seen in funeral service. It's widely known in York County.
Yeah. So Jen, it was not a decedent that was sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
It was an actual person.
But if you go to do something to a person and they don't want that done to them, they can say, no, stop. Someone who is dead does not have a voice. Why are we
We're supposed to be
allowing,
their voice.
right? Why are we allowing people in funeral service who have these backgrounds?
If you can't respect boundaries, how are you going to respect anything else?
Yeah.
Yes, that is Heaven Bound Crematory. That was Heaven Bound was not in Millersville. Millersville is a different crematory altogether. So I don't believe the owner and his wife have ever been arrested. So Millersville is different from Heaven Bound. Millersville is completely different.
You know what? I wonder if he's talking about the Scheid Funeral Home. Andy Scheid?
Oh, I'm thinking Millersville, Maryland. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Millersville, PA. Missed the PA.
Yes. Yeah, that was really unfortunate. That was only a couple years ago, and I don't know, 40 minutes from where we're located. There's no excuse for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. At one point, at what point, if you are so busy or you have so much work, do you just say, I cannot? Look, back during COVID, how many times did we hear, from other funeral homes that they had to stop taking calls? They had to turn off their phones because they were overrun and overwhelmed.
Well, I think a lot of it too is there's a lot of greed in funeral service. There's a lot of owners that want to pocket a lot of, they want to pocket all the money. They don't want to pay any staff, and they overwhelm themselves. You and I mean, we've been in these situations before, Chris, and there are people that look at us up at Berg and they think, why do you need 2 other funeral directors? Well, because I want a life outside of work. I don't want to have to, be a slave to the funeral home every single day. And at some point, hate what I do. I want to do this forever. And I love what I do at the funeral home. I love it. But there was, burnout is real. It's real. And I think some of these funeral directors they burn themselves out because of greed and just not wanting to pay other people to come in and help. And you need to staff your funeral home appropriately.
Well, and let's be honest, even when it was just you, Nate, and Dakota, when you got busy or you needed help, you called me before.
Yeah.
Even before I officially like worked for you guys,
Mm-hmm.
you would call me and I would come in and help out. You have to know what your limit is.
Yes.
You have to.
And families pick up on that. When you're burnt out, it shows in your work.
Yes.
Families pick up on it, and families don't deserve that. They deserve better. But yes, I don't know the whole situation there at Scheid Funeral Home, but that was a funky situation.
People were in truck coolers, yes, and during COVID, I actually worked for the state of Maryland. I was a contractor for them. We actually took over an Olympic ice rink and turned it into a temporary morgue for COVID overflow. We called it the Temporary Mortuary Affairs Center. That's why Maryland, you never saw a news story of overrun morgues or overrun hospitals in the state. In PG County, we took over it was called the Ice House. We took it over. We kept it very quiet. Funeral homes would come pick up decedents, everything. We had police that put a perimeter around the ice rink so you could only get in and out if you were a funeral home or you had credentials to be on the property, to be able to care and give dignity to the deceased. That was probably it was a sad experience, but it was probably one of the most honorable experiences that I've had in my career. Heard the same thing after Katrina. They did during COVID. Funeral homes were overwhelmed. Yeah. The Maryland State Funeral Directors Association disaster response team sent directors to help out in Katrina. But I mean, Katrina was a different beast. When people were recovered and after they were successfully identified, it was just direct burial. The body or the decedent would be treated with embalming powder, and they would be shrouded, placed directly into a casket, and the funeral will be scheduled and go directly to the cemetery. There's a lot of things that people don't understand that funeral directors do. Natural disasters. There's so many parts that there are licensed funeral directors that are never mentioned or recognized, and we don't do it for the glory. We don't do it for the free Starbucks coffee or anything like that. But we're still there, because imagine if we weren't. How crazy things could get.
That's why I always find it interesting when people come onto our social media and talk about how awful funeral directors are and we're terrible people and we bend people over, like last responder Jen said. But the second someone passes, who do you call? The funeral director.
Yep.
Call a funeral home, and we'll come out 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't matter what the situation is. We are there.
Debbie said, from a recent experience with my father's service, I truly believe if a funeral home has more funeral homes than 1 or 2, it's way too many. I felt like my father was more of a number than anything. It seems as if the funeral industry is changing. When we came back from the cemetery, his belongings and flowers were sitting on a cart. To me, that makes it almost feel as if you went through a car wash. And why I enjoy listening to all of you, because you actually are passionate about what you do. The funeral home may have thought they were kind of trying to help the family by whether they were organizing the flowers in one central location, or if there were pictures and things that were laid out around the funeral home, trying to gather those things for you. It may have not been intentionally like trying to brush out the door, but I do see how the perception of that could come to be. That's why I always ask a family, if they put photos and stuff around the funeral home. Normally the day before the funeral, I'll ask, are you planning on wanting to come back afterwards to pick these up? Or, did you want to take time and gather them before we go to the cemetery? Let me know. And if they say they're going to want to come back, I will let them know. Our staff will make sure everything has been collected for you, so that when you come, that way you're able to move on to whether you're going to a repass, or some folks are trying to make it to the airport to travel back. We just want to communicate, because we never want you to feel rushed, and you should never feel like just a number.
Right.
Never. That's unacceptable. Catherine, do you ever have a shortage of refrigeration? If so, how do you handle that?
If we're in a situation where we have a shortage of refrigeration or space in our cooler, for example, like right now we have a 2-person cooler. If someone were to pass at the hospital, or they're at the coroner's office and we don't have space to bring them into our care immediately, I'll reach out to the coroner and say, hey, can you work with me? Can I get a little bit of extra time? Maybe come out tomorrow, and they'll work with us. But we've found ourselves in some situations over the last 3 years, and this is why we built this brand new facility with an 8 to 10 person walk-in cooler. We need space. And, if there's a situation where there's another funeral home in the area and something happens with their refrigeration, reach out to us.
I mean, I think about like a lot of the funeral homes, like out toward Philadelphia, like a lot of the older row home funeral homes.
Yeah.
And it's like they're limited on whether they can one have the shoulder the expense to put in refrigeration, or even a stackable unit to where you have like 2 shelves or something like that. But it's like they then have to pay for that, and then that has to be passed on either through a professional service fee, or through that's not just something you pay for and you can't recoup that investment. You have to be able to recoup that investment. And then it costs money to run the thing. So it's interesting to see how how other small firms are able to meet the requirements of the law. Let's see. Catherine, you've opened my eyes that a decision of who to choose is also about a personality fit with the director and atmosphere. It's not just about services you offer. I think about what will my family experience be at my service when it comes time. I'm in Ohio. You are amazing. I listen to you every morning. Your calming voice is like a positive affirmation.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. I don't know. This is me. I love what I do. And yeah, I love being a funeral director. But I think it shows, you can tell if someone truly wants to be in this or not. You really can.
I tell anyone that either if they're an apprentice or if they're like a student intern or anything like that, it's like a family can see someone that is not genuine and fake a mile away.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I have something I want to say when you're done.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
People can see right through it.
They can. And I think Chris will agree with me on this, but if you are a funeral service professional, been in this for years and years and years, or maybe you're just getting into this, if there's one piece of advice I think that we can both offer, if you don't agree with something that another funeral director is doing, don't go on to their Facebook page and criticize them and try and put them down and make them seem small or like they don't know what they're doing. First of all, we're all going to have our own different ways of doing things. But I had a director come on to I think it was was it the cemetery prices? The cemetery prices video? I'm not sure what video it was. It was a video earlier this week, and there was another funeral director, because it took me 2 seconds to search them on Google. You can find anything on Google. Mm-hmm. But they came on to the post and they said, what did they say, Chris? They said you have too much time on your hands. So
yeah.
Yeah, he says, I have too much time on my hands. So I did a reverse search, typed in their name. I typed in funeral director behind it. And he is the son of a gentleman that appears to own 3 funeral homes in Kansas. Well, guess what funeral homes I will never call if we ever get a call in Kansas? Because if you're treating me that way, you've never met me. I'm just a stranger. How do you treat the families and talk to the families that come through your door?
Absolutely.
I have a long list of funeral homes that we will never do business with. And it's because they've just come on to attack us on social media, call us names, we're this, we're that. Well, that's great, but that's a really bad look for your funeral home. So, yeah, if you're working for a funeral home and you want to go out and attack another firm, make sure you don't have the funeral home that you work for listed on your profile. It's not a good representation. You are a branch of that funeral home. You are representing that funeral home, whether you realize it or not. Whether you're on the clock or not, you represent that funeral home.
It will bite you in the tush. Yeah, it will. Here's the thing: if you don't agree with us, that's fine. And it's not that they don't agree with us; it's that they don't like that we're talking about it. It's that they don't like that we're educating the public on questions they should ask and what they should look for in case something isn't being done properly or appropriately, which is concerning to begin with. And the fact that they're so narrow-minded that they're afraid to step out of what they've always known. They're afraid to actually get it. Everybody talks about the funeral home needs to be in the community. The funeral home needs to be in the community. You guys are in our homes. We're in your homes right now. And it's what, 8:24, on a Wednesday. Man, my days are running together. But it's like, come on. Like, right. This is how you build trust. This is how you show transparency.
Right.
It's the reason people, because of like the tri-state things and, the return to nature of things and stuff like that, people have lost so much trust in funeral directors. And all we're trying to do is show how to build that. We're trying to build that trust back and answer the questions. Why wait until the day a family is sitting in front of you to make arrangements to then try to build trust? Let's build trust. Let's be friends before you actually need me.
Right. I also think too that sometimes there's a little jealousy because they see two funeral directors out on social media who are out there doing their thing, and they're being held back by dad or grandpa who's owned the funeral home since 1805. We have this mentality that we don't talk about things, and you never get out and answer questions, and you don't show the prep room, and so they feel held back. And then there's this animosity that's projected towards us because we're able to get out and do what we want because we own our own funeral home, and you have a cool boss.
Yeah,
I'm joking. I'm being totally sarcastic. But no, I mean, I think when I got into this, I saw a huge opportunity to get out and talk and communicate with our community and just show our community who we are. We're normal, everyday people, but it has built a lot of trust. And there's people that pop up on our page, and I feel like they've become family, and they're in our community. They're great. I love our community.
Deb says, the reason I feared funerals is because I wasn't educated. Was always hush hush. Now I feel more calm and I understand more. And that's all it's about. Someone made a comment on one of my videos on the Harkin page where I was talking about if people are trying to, tell you things about cremation to scare you, it's, they shouldn't be doing that. And, somebody was like, well, all you're doing is try to scare people and sell a traditional funeral home. I said, it does not matter to me whether you have a traditional funeral service, whether you have a cremation. I'm trying to educate the importance of just having something. And even if you as a family choose to have a direct cremation with no services or anything through the funeral home, please have something to be able to have a communal mourning, whether it be going to the VFW, going to the local bar, or just something. Because here's the thing. Once you have those cremated remains back, you no longer need a funeral director. If you want to arrange a celebration of life, you can. It's important for people to understand that. It's not just get the cremated remains back and then, well, now I can't ever do anything. There are so many different things that you can do, but it's so important to have some type of service, some type of memorialization. Somebody did ask, can we drink alcohol during a service?
I mean, if you bring a flask in and take a swig of it, I don't know. We have had people at our funeral home, they go out to the parking lot, take a shot, come back in. Really, in the state of Pennsylvania, it's a funky Pennsylvania state law, funeral law, you cannot have food and drink in the same room as a body, right, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same room. So you really shouldn't have anything in that room, but it is frowned upon serving alcohol in a funeral home. But I've had plenty of families go out and drink in the parking lot and come back in. And
I've had people not at Harkins, but I've had people. They in between the break between the two viewings, there's a cooler in the back of the pickup truck, and they just pop the tailgate and sit down in the parking lot and do their thing.
I was visibly pregnant with Max, and I had a family offer me a shot of Sex on the Beach. And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm good.
It's like, probably not a good idea right now.
Follow up with me in about 3 months.
Chris from Frigid's here, and he says, education is so important, and it absolutely is. Education is key. You cannot over-educate. And, I think I even said it to somebody the other day. They made a comment. I was responding back. I said, the day you feel like you know it all and you've learned it all is the day you need to retire.
Yeah. Always
continue learning.
You're the smartest person in the room. You're in the wrong room.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. What else do we have?
I do have another comment that I wanted to touch on. Someone had commented on your tri-state post,
Yes.
and they said, and I didn't catch the name. I'm sure if we dug around, we could find who commented. But they said, it's awful. I work with a funeral home where the apprentice is the general manager, and families are led to believe she is a licensed director. She is the acting funeral director in full and continuous charge. This kind of stuff needs more oversight to catch people like this. I agree. You also have a voice, and you can pick up the phone and call the state board and make a
Absolutely. Because here's the thing. If something were to happen, who's accountable? There's got to be, and it depends on the state. Because again, every state is, independently governed by their own rules, regulations, and boards. But like here in Pennsylvania, you have to have a licensed funeral director listed as the supervisor of each funeral home, and you can only be a supervisor of one rooftop altogether. It doesn't matter distance or anything like that, right, Catherine?
right.
Yeah. So that licensed supervisor is the one that's on record with the board that if something were to go wrong, they are the ones that the board is going to come to and hold accountable because they're the one that's supposed to be supervising the other licensees. So if you have an unlicensed person supervising or managing a facility that has no idea what they're doing, this has bad written all over it. And, you may not want to call the board because I can see, they may not want to call the board because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, but make an anonymous complaint. Pick up the phone and call anonymously. Depending on the board might not investigate anonymous complaints, or they might. But I cannot even begin to imagine having to deal with something like that because that's going to be so bad.
Yeah. Hey, someone had commented here, J. Franklin Hawley. Catherine, thank you for your kind words about Fred and Tara Zellman. I don't know what I said about Fred and Tara, but they're awesome. They are located not too far from Harkins, where Chris is in Delta. And I think, early on when we got into Harkins, before we actually finalized the purchase, we really leaned on Fred and Tara a lot, and they were awesome. And it's really important to have those relationships in funeral service with other funeral homes. So, yeah.
It's an alternative to formaldehyde for embalming. I'm actually allergic, so I do not attend funerals and accept my dad. I mean, there's glutaraldehyde. I don't think. Have you ever used glutaraldehyde?
Yes, I think that's Champion.
I've never used it, so I don't know what the results are like.
I don't want to talk badly about any fluid companies. You know who I like?
Frigid.
I like Frigid, but I learned on some other products that I was not impressed with. People were really, really splotchy, and I just didn't like splotchy red marks. With Frigid, I get good distribution.
Vince says, my best advice to everyone, choose mom and pop funeral homes and do not deal with big corporations. Do a little background on them. Again, I know funeral directors that I've had the opportunity to go to different programs with that work for corporate funeral homes that are phenomenal funeral directors. Please understand that. One of the biggest benefits I like about privately owned funeral homes is that if we need to make a decision on how to help a family, I don't have to call a regional manager, a regional vice president, and then an area vice president. I can pick up the phone and text Catherine and say, hey, this is what we got going on. What can we do? How can we make this work? And we figure it out.
Yeah.
You don't have to go up 6,000 different chains. And they may have that opportunity. They may be able to, go to their location manager, and that location manager may be able to do that. I don't know. So I don't want anybody to ever think we're bashing corporately owned funeral homes. I've never dealt with them, so I don't know the experience. Those of you that may have, if you've had experiences, please feel free to share them on a comment or on a post and let us know, and we'll be more than happy to dive into those conversations with you.
I'm not sure what you're seeing in your chat feed, but Karen had commented about a wedding ring.
I did see that. I'm trying to go back. It was like how to remove it. If they would want their loved one viewed with the
Yeah.
wedding ring.
She says,
I do that all the time.
Karen says, if the family wants their loved one to wear their wedding ring during a viewing, but afterwards would like to keep the ring, how is it removed? Seems like this wouldn't be an easy task. It's actually really easy.
Depends.
I don't know about you, Chris. How do you handle it?
It depends. If someone comes in and the wedding ring is already on, it just remains on them. Now, swelling can occur or something like that, but I'll tell you, lotion and the ligature trick around the finger,
dental floss
works wonders.
Yeah.
Ligature, dental floss, whatever. You can get a ring off without having to cut a ring.
If you're asking though, as far as like how we discreetly remove it in front of everyone, when the service is over, before we go to close the casket, we excuse guests from the room. And typically the family stays behind with me in the room when we close the casket, or I have the pastor stay behind. I always have someone stay behind when I remove jewelry, or even when I don't remove jewelry, because if no one's in the room and I'm closing that casket and that person has jewelry on, I don't want to be accused of taking anything off before I close that casket. So I always have someone in the room with me either way, but you just remove the ring, put it in a little pouch, and give it to the individual that's supposed to get the jewelry.
Yeah, always have
second set of eyes.
Yeah, have somebody there with you. And here's the thing, I remember being there with another director, and they took the ring off, and I was like, hey, what about there was a brooch, and the family was like, oh yeah, we totally forgot about that. And it's like, yeah, so I was able to take that off, because if not, you just give the ring back and you don't ask a question. You close the casket, you go to the cemetery and close the grave, and then they call back and want the brooch back. That's going to be a dicey subject,
right? And
these are questions that, again, during the arrangement conference with your funeral director, these are the things that are discussed. When you bring personal property in and you go through that with the family, and you find, do you want the glasses back? We've had some where they just ask to take the glasses off and place them in their hands, and some folks do want the glasses back. There are tons of different things, but these are the things that we ask during the arrangements. Bruce says, I'm new to funeral service, should be getting my license in Illinois next month. I'm finding this page very informative, and I feel it will help me as I start my journey into this profession. Thank you for doing this. Congratulations, Bruce, and you are making one of the best decisions you will ever make in your life by joining funeral service. Sometimes it's not going to be easy, don't get me wrong, but my biggest advice to you would be find your home, find your people that you just click with, that you mesh with, and love every minute of it.
You really do become like family in this work. It's you're together long hours sometimes.
Gail said, I really enjoy listening to both of you. The way you put your clients first is so important, and explaining the difference in your products. I have a question. I had a stillborn full term and always wondered if he was embalmed.
Gail would have had to give permission.
Correct. You would still have to give permission for your child to be embalmed. You would have signed an embalming authorization. That should have all been disclosed to you. So if you want, you can put a little bit more context into the chat here, and we'd be more than happy to talk about this because we still have about 20 minutes left. In New York, our state board is a joke. They approved the fee of $1,500 to dig down 22 inches and 18 by 18 into place my father's cremated on top of my grandmother's vault. The cost of the full opening for a vault is $1,700. What a money grab!
Pricing's all over the board.
It really is.
Mhm.
And again, cemeteries are a different business outside of funeral homes. Even funeral homes that have cemeteries attached to them, I know in Maryland has to be two separate businesses. It cannot be the funeral home can't be the owner of the cemetery. They can have common ownership, but they have to be separate entities.
Yeah.
Trying to see. I'm 63 years old, and when I was in high school, in one of my classes, we took a tour of a prep room of a funeral home. I found it so interesting. Some boys passed out when they were telling how things were done. A boy in my class, his parents owned a funeral home, and as an adult, he took over the funeral home and became a funeral director and took care of my mom. Wow. Yeah, I don't think I've seen where they've done like tours of like a medical examiner or a coroner's office with school. But I don't think I've ever seen like high school schoolers come to a funeral home.
As long as we don't have anyone in the prep room, if we have someone come into the funeral home and they say, I want to see where my mom's cared for, my dad's cared for, we've showed you on social media.
Yeah.
We'll open up the doors to the prep room. That prep room will be open during our open houses, and it's a place we're really proud of.
And just so what Catherine's talking about May 16th and 17th?
May 17th.
May 17th.
Yeah, May 17th, 18th, and 19th are the open houses.
So, and you can go in and reserve a time. There's no fee.
No fee.
And you can find all that information.
We totally sold out. The tickets are free. We're asking people to purchase tickets so that we can keep track of how many people are coming, who's coming, all that good stuff. But Sunday, the first open house is completely sold out. I think we have a little over 100 people coming on Sunday to the open house, which is great.
Wow.
Yes. Yep. And Monday and Tuesday I think one day we have 35 people, and so I'm not sure. I'd have to look and see, but yeah, if it continues to go the way it's going, we're going to have to open up some more times.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So great. I mean, again, that's the opportunity, and if you can go on to the Wagner, Elfner and Berg Facebook page, find Catherine's post on that, and if you're in the area and you can snag up a time that's convenient for you, come on over.
The pink casket will be there. The pink embalming machine will be there. We're going to have multiple setups. Chris recommended that we get some caskets, some full-size caskets in from our casket company that we work with. We're going to get I need to contact the florist tomorrow, but I'm going to get certain arrangements for each casket. We're going to have a full couch casket, a half couch casket. I got the
the rustic barnwood.
Yeah, I got that one. And the cameo rose. I got that in a full couch.
Cameo rose in a full couch?
Yeah.
And now the rustic barn, is it the standard interior or is it the camo interior?
I'm assuming standard. I didn't know they had camo.
So I think you can get it in camo. You'd have to ask George.
I'll text George after this.
Because I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, and the barnwood, we decided to do a half couch because I want people to be able to see the wood. And then the cameo rose, I want a full couch. I'm not super concerned about the lid, but I want people to be able to see that hardware because that's some really pretty hardware.
Someone asked, hopefully, that they will be able to see Nate's Arnold impression if they come to the open house.
Was that Billy?
Yes.
Yes, Billy. Nathan will be there. But yeah.
Did you all do any research about getting rental flowers for? You know what? I have not had a chance. I love that idea, and Breland gave me like an amazing idea with that when we talked about it, but I have not had an opportunity to talk to a florist or anything about it yet.
I haven't either. We've been a little busy.
Mike said he might take a ride from King of Prussia if weekend opens up. I mean, it's not that far. What would that be? 2 hours, 2.5 hours?
It's about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. They have good shopping there.
Has anyone fell through the cardboard boxes that go to the crematory?
No.
I've never had it happen. I
That's
have seen it.
sturdy cardboard.
They are sturdy. The problem is people try to fit folks that should not fit into a standard cremation alternative container into them, and it compromises their integrity, and it gets very dangerous for the operator, because sometimes an operator, even though it's a multi-person operation, there may only be one operator on a shift, and it's dangerous for the operator because that the rigidity is compromised, and we see that happen all the time. Versus if a person could not fit into an alternative container, they may need to be put onto an air tray to be cremated, but they don't want to either charge the family for the air tray, or they just don't want to pay for an air tray from a manufacturer to do it. So, but I've never seen anyone actually fall through one of the boxes. 2 of my grandparents' funerals were at corporate funeral homes. It was owned by Carriage Services. Everything was great. I still personally prefer local owned firms, but had no complaints. See?
As long as you're happy.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I don't think all of them. Do cremation boxes have OSB on the bottom?
What's OSB?
Some of like a board that reinforces it. Not all. Some do. Like I know some that are all through certain manufacturers will, but not all of them do. Yeah, see, some containers have press board on the bottom for heavy persons, but not all of them. Not all of them. Was diagnosed with heart failure. Oh, I'm sorry. Which has me thinking of final wishes. I'm 4'7". Would I still get an adult casket, or how would that work? Still deciding between traditional and cremation. Yeah. I mean, because even though your height, you would still be able to select an adult casket.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Chicago area, and we call it a wake, never viewing or visitation, because those Irish wakes. You know, Chicago's a big Irish community, Irish wakes, things like that. Again, terminology is going to be interchangeable when you go from state to state. Catherine, I think by the time you get the new funeral home open, you and Nate may need a few adult beverages or a short beach trip to relax.
You know what, Vince? It's funny you say that, because we took our vacations last month and we were supposed to take those after the funeral home was open as a way to kind of like decompress and say, okay, we're done. Everything's good. We can relax. But it didn't work out that way. And it was kind of nice because we got to go away, just the two of us. And then a week later, we went to visit my parents in Florida. And we came back and we jumped right back into the, planning of the funeral home and finalizing everything. But I had an opportunity to meet with a family today. I had an arrangement this morning. And over the last year, I've really leaned on Addie and Chad to do a lot of the arrangements so that I could focus on getting this funeral home up and running, picking out lights, wallpaper, you name it, door handles. If I never pick out a light again in my life, I'm perfectly fine. But I did this arrangement today and I got this like surge of energy. And I even said something to Holly, because Holly came back to the printer and I said, what's crazy is I have been drained for the last couple of months. I met with this family today. I have so much to do, but I'm not tired. Like I feel so energized. And it's because I was doing something I genuinely loved. I love meeting with families for arrangements. So, once that new location is open, I don't think I'm going to want to leave. I want to get back to what I love doing, and that's funeral directing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the videos are going to stop. That doesn't mean social media is going to stop, but I don't want to pick out a door handle. I want to meet with a family. I don't want to, pick out a lamp. I want to go out on a house call. I want to get back to doing what I do. And that's
Where your heart is.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I won't need a vacation. I think I'm going to be more energized than ever to get to work. No, Marty. Marty, stop putting pressure on me. Nathan asked me the same thing tonight. He said, "Did you order the faucet?" I said, "Send me an email."
Currently, you do, correct?
Do we print our own obituaries, memorial folders in-house? We do, but we have partnered with a company called Life Celebrations, and I wish I had a sample here, but just amazing personalized materials that we can get from a company. I'm going to have to get some samples and I'll bring them and show them during one of the next pop-up sessions, but they are an amazing company, and we are really going to be able to personalize services at our new funeral home.
We use Tukios. Tukios actually hosts both of our websites for Wagner, Elfner, and Berg and Wagner, Elfner, and Harkins. And I use Tukios videos for DVDs and memorial tributes down the road. Now that will change for you with Life Celebrations, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are really happy. I mean, I'm very happy with Tukios.
Yeah, they've been amazing to work with. They've been great partners. Really, really good. Harkins is owned. Katharine and Nate own the property, the building, the business name. It's owned. It is not rented.
There's an apartment upstairs, though, if anyone's interested in renting the apartment.
But don't forget, you got to deal with this.
Okay, so I just walked into the funeral home.
Yeah.
But I mean, so again, great. I think it's been a fun night. I think we've got to talk about some great things. Again, the 186 folks are still with us. I mean, we were up near 300 for a while.
It's great.
So again, for a Wednesday evening, we appreciate folks wanting to spend their time with us. And again, we have the 23rd. We have just gotten so many people that have been willing to want to come on and be part of things with us, with the guest. That I remember I went in and I looked at Katharine one morning and I was like, are we going to need to add more than maybe once a month to be able to come? Because we're out to October with guests.
Yes. Yep.
So we're out to October. So there's going to be some really awesome episodes. Like I said, we've got the Sean Revive, which will be the 23rd. June, we have May we have Ruth Ann Distal.
Yes.
June we have Carlton May. July, are we confirmed for July?
Who's on for July?
We're going to disrupt things in July.
Yes, Ryan from Disrupt Media. That's going to be fun. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, we're going to rock the boat. We are going to disrupt some stuff in July with Ryan. I mean, we are going to be ruffling feathers in July. I guarantee it. August is going to be phenomenal. We are going to August. We have Dwayne Hill, who is he is retired now, but he still practices in upstate New York. But he was the president of Joseph Guller and Sons Funeral Home in Washington, D.C., and that is the funeral home of the presidents. Dwayne worked on several presidential funerals, and that's going to be a fun conversation. Who do we have?
September, we have Monica Torres.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I got to look. I don't even remember for October. But we've got a plethora of folks planned, and you never know when Catherine may text me randomly throughout the day and be fired up about a comment and say, we need to go live tonight. And then you'll get surprised with a pop-up notification. But again, we really appreciate everyone being here with us. We cannot wait to see how this continues to grow. We love the all of the interaction, not so much the negative interaction, but the positive interaction we really enjoy. I'll be curious to see where we get to by the weekend with followers. So everybody in here, don't forget to share this page and encourage other folks to follow us. Facebook will delete these recordings. I believe it's within 30 days or something like that. But all of our recordings of all of our lives from the very first one that Catherine and I have ever done are available on our YouTube channel, which is the same as the Hearst Turns. And then all of the audio can be listened to again through Apple Podcast and on Spotify. So we really do appreciate everybody being here. And I'm sure if Catherine can come up with a way for us to produce the black leopard mugs with the As the Hearst Turns on there, if anybody can do that, it'd be Catherine. We'll figure it out and we'll get
work on that.
to you.
I'll add that to my to-do list, and I will get
Like you don't have enough.
faucet ordered. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything else that we need to do, really. I mean, everything's there. Addie and Chad have started stocking the prep room.
Mm-hmm.
Terry finished cleaning the prep room today. Terry is Nathan's mom. Yeah, I mean, we're gearing up for our state board inspection, because once we're inspected and we get the clear to operate, we need to be fully operational.
Yeah, it's almost like a light switch, isn't it? Like you're technically supposed to go from one location to the other.
Yeah, I think that I would hope that the state board will give us a little bit of a grace period, but we'll see.
I'm sure. I mean, it's not feasible,
right?
Because what happens if you're serving a family in the middle of the transition? What are you going to say? Stop the funeral. We've got to go to the new location.
Get down. Yeah, it's not going to work that way. But yeah, that's Denise. I'm not putting a date out there, but it's very, very soon. Susan, mugs and a t-shirt, maybe. We might have them at our open houses as well. Someone suggested, was it you or Holly? I think it was Holly that suggested we have t-shirts at the open house. But yeah, when we pass our state board inspection, you will know for sure. That's going to be a big deal, but we're not going to put a date out there. I don't want to jinx anything.
Well, I'll have to pass it up and ask the boss if that's something we can start working on to merchandise or something along those lines.
I'll get you in contact with Gabby at To the T, and you can work with her on building a page for Harkins for merchandise.
Yeah, we'll get that squared away. But yeah, no, it's going to be. I know I've got a busy next couple days down my way. I know you guys have a couple families in your care. And then we will all be back again on the 23rd at 6 p.m., not 7. And we'll see everybody then. Anything else you want to add?
Can't think of anything else. Yeah, I don't know. If you have a question or comment, feel free to email us. Our emails, is yours listed on your website?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
You can reach out to us on the As the Hearst Turns page. You can email us directly. Mm-hmm. So I did have to turn off messaging on the Facebook page, and I'm not going to turn that back on.
I saw somebody sent a message that they were unable to reach you through
Yeah, we were getting quite a few messages, and I feel bad not answering messages. I don't want anything to get lost. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to turn it off at this time and just put our email.
So all of our times are Eastern Standard Time. So the next show will be, all the other shows are scheduled, I believe, for 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. This was just 7 o'clock because, again, one, it was just a pop-up, and I wanted to eat dinner. I think Catherine wanted to eat dinner, change into her Valentine's pajamas. So everything, all of our times are Eastern Standard, just for everybody's information. But all right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap up, and hopefully your downstairs TV doesn't turn on tonight.
See you guys.